Hey Tina, David Hillison here. Thanks for your email asking for some input. I thought it would be easier for me to respond with video as opposed to typing everything because those are some pretty robust questions, even in just 4 words or less. So let me just try to tackle them, give you a little perspective from me, and hopefully some of that will help you. So the first one was how to invite guests. And I'll say that it's not hard to invite guests, you just have to do it. So, like anything else, all of these things take time and they take effort. And if you put in the time and effort, you get better results. So, how do you invite guests? You invite guests. I think the bigger question is, why do you invite guests? I don't necessarily invite guests specifically for them to join a specific networking group. I typically invite guests in an effort to build a relationship with them. So, what does that mean? I'm literally using the networking organization to help me create a relationship with somebody, not only through providing opportunity for them to build and grow their business, but also potentially to hear my keynote where I have a chance to influence them in a lot more detail. So, how to invite guests? You ask. And the reason you ask them in large part is because you want to give them an opportunity to promote their business. So, that unto itself is part of the relationship build. I'm now creating an opportunity for someone else to promote their business. That actually makes me look good. But there's another piece in the how, and that is you don't necessarily have to say, can you come next week or the week after the week after. It's actually easy to say, hey, here are our next 3 or 4 upcoming keynote speakers. Why don't you attend for the person that most interests you? So part of it is again trying to create that match. So sending out an email with a number of different dates, is one. But I've had people come to my keynotes who are actually clients of other people in groups, and they would say, "How did you get that person to come to your keynote?" And I said, "I just asked." And again, going back to trying to provide opportunities for people to build and grow their business. So, how to invite guests? Send an email, make a phone call. Let them know that you're creating an opportunity for them. That's it. It's not that they're doing something for you. You are really doing something for them. And I think that's an important mindset. How to give referrals, introductions, etc. I did this yesterday. You make connections where you have the opportunity. So a lot of that comes from one-to-ones, connecting with people. But part of it is also mindset as well. So one of my key goals over the past couple of years has been to give business to 10 people I've never referred business to before. Refer business to 10 people. Again, if that's my first goal for the year, that's mindset. I have actually transitioned that for 2020 to say that I want my Mosaic chapter to get those 10 referrals. I don't necessarily just want to refer business out to anybody. I want to help the people in that Mosaic chapter, bring us all together. And so, that mindset, is part of what drives, your ability to give referrals, make introductions. Naturally, it's important upon us to gather as much information as possible so that the connecting parties, see it as well. It's one thing to say, hey, I need a commercial insurance broker, and for me to make that type of referral. It's another for me to have someone referred to me, let's say by their CPA for health insurance, and I say, oh, by the way, do you need a website? Oh, by the way, do you need a new banking relationship? Those are things where now all of a sudden you have to go out of your way, recognizing maybe some of these things before they do. So again, everyone does that differently, but if you're trying to be proactive and help people, that puts you in a position to give more referrals. The other thing is that you want to be referable. So I think part of it is recognizing that not everyone is referable. And so, if the question was, how do you make yourself more referable? Well, I think you need to understand um, the person you want to get referrals from and make sure that you're delivering on what they're looking for. And let me give you an easy example. Let's take two insurance brokers, right? One sells insurance and wants to do reviews for people and make sure that there are no stones and holes left unturned. Probably a little bit more outgoing in their ask. Hey, I want to review your insurance. Compare that with an insurance broker that wants to be more of a consultant, does not want to be solicitive, and goes out of their way to not be solicitive. In that scenario, the person that's not as solicitive is easier to refer by the person that is solicitive than the person who is not solicitive is not as easy to refer the person that's highly solicitive. Why? Because they may not like their clients being bombarded with a sales pitch. And so I think, again, how to give referrals, part of that is understanding the real nature of people, so that when you're making a referral, you have a tremendous amount of confidence in the fact that it's going to work, right? It's not just here, go try this. You actually already know it's going to work and probably have an assumptive approach in doing so. How to maximize the spotlight presentation with guests in the actual presentation. Let me address the presentation first, and I've already addressed this with my chapter, which is we've all done our first keynote, and that's great. It's a chance to learn a little bit more about you. What is it going to look like for the second one and the third one and the fourth one? Are we going to continue to put out the same message every time, or do we revise that message in two different ways? One, based upon a cumulative set of ideas that we're trying to build upon, or secondly, to address specific changes in the market or specific changes in our business. So I think it's extremely important with the actual presentation to ask members what they want to know, what they want to hear, as opposed to just rolling with what you want to say. You certainly want to be able to address what you want to say, but more importantly, it's to address what people want to hear. And then secondly, with guests, keynotes are a chance to influence guests. So I've written a lot of business from people I've invited to hear me speak. Why? Because I don't want to be solicitive in other places in my business, which means I need to use those speaking opportunities to influence. And again, I think that just goes back to creating sort of a special opportunity in your keynote, and inviting people that you want to be able to influence with that message. So that's what I would say. And as a sort of follow-up to that, for other people's keynotes, it's a good opportunity for you to do a one-to-one with them in advance, so that you have a sense of who's in their network that you may want them to invite to hear their keynote, and who may be in your network that you can think about to invite for their keynote as well. How to maximize one-to-ones and the benefits. I think first is have a plan. Go into the one-to-one with some action item. Hopefully it's about the other person and not about you. So I would say that's first, have a plan. And secondly, do them with enough regularity that you are not stuck in the same spot. So again, same thing, sort of progressively. First one-to-one should be getting to know each other. Second one-to-one, digging a little bit deeper in some of the whys and whats and hows. By the third one-to-one, you should be talking about wins and spheres of influence that maybe you have in common, maybe particular clients you have in common. And by the fourth, you should have an opportunity to be targeting specific clients together. All of those things they require time. Going back to that same idea of how to give referrals and make introductions, you got to put in the time. But there's also a level of progression, which means if we're not doing enough one-to-ones with the same people, we're always going to be stuck at, hey, how are you doing, and catching up, as opposed to really advancing the ball. So that's my big takeaway. The second thing about how to maximize one-to-ones and the benefits is that we need to understand that we're all in a journey together. And I think learning from other people's journeys helps us as we create sort of our own, mindset and thought process. So there's always a chance to learn, but there's also an opportunity for you to learn about someone's business and explore that with them in a way that maybe they haven't seen themselves. And what does that mean? That means that you're thinking about their business in a way that's deeper than just on the surface. And that's really what leads to number 2, how to give better referrals and make introductions. You actually have to have put in the time, to learn those things. It just doesn't happen as easily as we think, even with people that we see a lot. So again, understand that these things actually take time and effort. Team building and chapter culture. Again, those things all sort of feel, they all find themselves with momentum. You heard me say in terms of team building that I've articulated to my chapter that I'm not spreading referrals around, that I actually want those referrals, focused in the chapter. But that also assumes that the people in my chapter are referable, and putting forth the same towards chapter culture and growth. And so that's always the same. That's always the hard part, is we want to lead and be a leader. We also want those things to be, fairly and easily reciprocated, and that's what makes a very, healthy referral network and partnership as well. And I think for newer chapters in particular, that's extremely hard, because the chapter members aren't always as responsible for bringing in what are going to be natural referral spheres. Sometimes, again, when chapters are forming, you have a lot of people coming together, and you hope there are some synergies built. Over time is what is extremely important, that you're building a chapter culture that attracts the type of people that you are looking for in your business, right? So again, we need to be leaders in that area. We also need to be patient and recognize that it takes effort and time, and those two things coupled together will be able to then flesh out whether we do have the right pieces to the puzzle. And then lastly, networking tips, strategies, and tactics. Know what you're looking for. And these things take time. When I started networking, the types of professionals I was looking for are very different than the types of professionals I look for today. When I am networking, I'm really interested in seeing how I can connect people in my network, first and foremost. I'm also networking for spheres of influence, not necessarily for direct sales opportunities. And so it's not lead generation. We need to have figured out lead generation separately so that we can actually network and build relationships in the way that we would want for the types of professionals that are most synergistic to our business. So, those are, I think, my thoughts. It is not a secret that the easiest way to get a referral is to give a referral. So if you use that as your mindset, the ball's in your court. And I'll say that, let me expand on that sort of thought process as I wrap up, in that the ball's in your court. If I want referrals from somebody and I go up and say, hey, I have solutions for your clients, that is a little bit different than if I go up to somebody and I say, hey, I'm really interested in you and your business. You look very successful. I'd like to learn a little bit more because I actually think you can provide good service to my clients. All right. So let me learn a little bit more. And assuming that I trust you and like you, let's see which of my clients would be open to that conversation. Use my client as the opportunity to build that relationship. I have gone to somebody to say, I'm interested in you. The ball is in my court to deliver there first. Conversely, if someone comes to me and says, hey, Dave, I'd love to do more business with you, the ball is in your court to do more business. So just because you came up to me and we seem to get along, doesn't mean that I'm going to refer you a business. You've come to me and said, hey, we should work together. Well, the ball's really in your court to see that through. So again, if that's your sort of mindset, or at least now you know that's my mindset, that's what I'd be looking for if we're trying to build a partnership. I hope we can, and I look forward to working with you. You seem highly successful and motivated if you've watched to the end of this video. And I love connecting with rock stars. So keep fighting a good fight. It's not supposed to be easy. Let's see where it leads. All the best.